let's get on to our next topic, our next guests, paranormal activity. Scott Hamilton runs the Estonia-based paranormal investigation company called Family Haunts. They hold an open house for what he calls they've held several open houses for what he calls the first paranormal investigation school. They do all kinds of different work. They teach people to, I think a lot of people that are interested in getting into paranormal research, as I've said so many times, my hat's off to these folks, because no paranormal researcher that I've ever met does it as a hobby. They're there to help people. They're there to help people solve problems. People have issues, things going on in their house, their business, their place of work, whatever. They're there to work with them. And the amount of time and effort that these people put in, the several that I've had here in the studio in Salt Lake City, they put in so much time and effort to work with people and straighten out things and maybe get them some sort of an explanation. So without any further delay, let's go ahead and let's get Scott and Jeff on the line. Scott, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Are you there?
I am. Let me see if we can get Jeff. Jeff, are you there?
It's Bill.
Bill, I'm sorry. It's been a long night, Bill.
That's all right. I'm here.
All right, we got them both on the line. Guys, good evening and welcome to Fringe Radio.
Good evening. Good evening.
So why don't you give us a little bit of your background, a little bit of the backstory, guys, if you could tell me, how did you get into what you do? How did you get into paranormal research, ghost hunting? And then I want to talk about your school. This is very interesting.
Well, let's see. I've been doing this for over 25 years.
This is Scott or Bill?
This is Scott.
Okay, Scott. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, that's right. I've been doing it for over 25 years, just basic investigations. I've been all over the place doing it. Then, about a year and a half ago, we started putting in works to open a school for paranormal research here in Connecticut. And that came to fruition probably last year, so it took about 6 months to open up.
Okay.
And then I said to my wife, because we both run it, I said, well, let's get another school started. And there was a lot of variables that went into it and stuff. But I contacted over 500 groups, and Spring Hill, which Bill is the founder of, got along real good on the phone, and liked his attitude. They were proactive on the whole thing, and that's how Spring Hill and us came to fruition to start the school down there. Now, in the school, what we do is we teach everything from the initial contact, whether it's email, phone call, different sites you can go on, Thumbtack, word of mouth, all the way to the reveal to a client. It's a 5-week course. We cover everything from, let me see here. We cover everything from equipment, research, history, client confidentiality, evidence review, and they also get to go on 1 or 2 investigations during the class.
Gotcha.
Those are set up similar to mine. Yeah, he's set up very similar to mine. Not exactly the same way, but for the most part, it works. The only difference between his school and my school, is we are family run, and him and Lisa take care of that school down there.
Gotcha. Now, Bill, where are you located at?
Little town called Bellefonte in central Pennsylvania.
Oh, okay. Lot of places in Pennsylvania. A lot of haunted places there. When you talk about paranormal, the whole northeast area there, but Pennsylvania seems to be that, and Ohio seem to be the 2 big ones.
Yeah, you see, Scott and I disagree on whose state's haunted the most, his or mine.
Connecticut is the most haunted. Okay, just so to put it in.
You know what I mean?
Hold on. Okay. Do you have... No, I'm not even going to get into it right now because it'll be an hour-long conversation. shall I say, paranormal was founded in Connecticut. Okay? And you can argue with me that all you want, Bill. We have the grandfather and grandmother paranormal here in Connecticut, and they live about 10 minutes from me.
I'll give you that, Scott. Yes, you do. I'll give you that.
Now, Bill, do you have your own group in Pennsylvania? You're totally separate, or you and Scott work together? How's that work?
Well, I'll tell you what. Back this past May,
okay,
we have a group. It was a little bit larger about a year ago. We had since parted ways. My fiance and I still maintain the group, and we had gotten in contact with Scott. Actually, he sort of made contact with us through Facebook, and I started talking with him. Yes, we have our own group here, and I'd never met the man. We talked, Scott, 2 months, 3 months before we actually met face-to-face?
Yep.
And he pitched the idea about the school. I've been doing the paranormal investigation for about 15 years, and it sounded like it was an interesting take on what we do. And between Scott and I and his whole deal, because he had it all set up, we decided that it might be a good time to start teaching folks how to do this legally, safely, and professionally. And so he said, hey, you want to start a school down there? I'm like, okay, what do I got to do? And here we are.
So with the one thing with the school, I think it's a good thing. I mean, here, there's so many people that, it seems that we have a lot of people that have interest in this this science, because that's what it really is.
Yep.
And they've got to join a group. But I think there's a lot of people that would like to do it on their own. And of course, a lot of people go out and they get online, they start buying all this equipment, and it would be nice to have a place where people can go and kind of get the inside scoop, if you will, and not spend a ton of money and have some success and getting equipment that's going to work properly and do the right things for them.
Absolutely. Now, and the big thing is to do it legally. I mean, you're really not supposed to be in a cemetery at night.
Right.
And there are ways to go about it where you're allowed to be in the cemetery at night. There are people you can talk to in the community that will let you do that. And in the last year, our little group has found, like Scott's town in Connecticut, they're starting to open up for us, and they're allowing us a little bit more freedom to do what we want investigation-wise.
As long as you're respectful. Guys, I got to stop you for just a minute. We got to take a quick break for our other stations.
Okay.
Bill and Scott are here. We're talking about paranormal school, family haunts, and some other fun stuff. You're listening to Fringe Radio. It's an honor to have both these guys here tonight. Sounds like adversaries with a good cause and good competitors. I love it. We'll be right back on the other side. FringeRadio.com. Stick around. All right, everybody. Welcome back to Fringe Radio. Our guests tonight, Scott Hamilton and Bill. Again, guys, thanks for giving up some time tonight to be here with us.
No problem. Thank you for having us.
So, go ahead. Pick back up, Bill. We had to cut you off with the commercial, but go ahead and pick back up. You're talking about cemeteries and being able to access them.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Our school is based on being able to do this safely, professionally, and legally. I mean, you got these people going out there, like you said, with their equipment, and they're just walking through cemeteries, and they're getting arrested, and they're getting in trouble, they're trespassing. And what we try to do is help them find the avenues to do this legally and safely, both physically and spiritually. And, I mean, it makes it a whole lot better experience when you're allowed to be where you are.
Right.
You know what I mean? It takes the pressure off, and you can actually concentrate on what you're doing instead of having to always look over your shoulder. You know, is that a cop? Is that an officer? Or who is that? You know what I mean? So we try to help those folks that are wanting to do this, I guess, find the avenues and the means to do it legally.
So it is illegal to be in a cemetery at night after hours?
Well, it is in my town.
Okay.
It is up here, too.
Yeah.
and obviously they can arrest you for trespassing if you're in there tooling around or doing whatever you're doing.
Yep. And believe me, they will.
Yeah. Do you get have people in your area been arrested if they've gotten a misdemeanor or a felony charge from it?
Well, yeah, up here they have been. There was an incident with a grouse hunting group in Ansonia that actually got the mayor's permission and actually got permission from the cemetery, and the cemetery said, no problem. Do I need to bring paperwork to the town, to the police department, to let them know that we're there? And the person at the thing said, no, don't worry about it, we'll take care of it. And then the next thing you know, the police show up. Until you actually have that in hand, it's extremely difficult to say, well, I got permission. Well, who'd you get permission from?
Right.
And that group was my group, which was a good learning lesson for the students, because it was a student field trip, and it was a good lesson that they have to have permission and have that piece of paperwork in their hand.
Gotcha.
So,
is it? Are most municipalities, guys, are they pretty willing to work with you?
The ones that I've worked with, Connecticut is a very strange place. Some of them will work with you, some of them won't. When we started the school, we actually got the blessing of the town. I went from the mayor's office to the board of aldermen to the all the different boards in the town, the 20 different boards I had meetings with, and they were like, yes, let's do this. Yes. So they have been extremely forthcoming and extremely positive for us to do this.
Gotcha.
Because they see all the groups, all the people that go out and investigate and burn down houses, burn down mansions, get arrested, and if they can avoid having a ticket written, they're all for it.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Are they pretty? Bill, in your area, are they the same way? Are they willing to work with you there?
Yeah, like I said, they've been opening up. Our school is in its infancy. We just had our first semester in last week, I believe, and we're just now starting to get a name for ourselves here. Mm-hmm. And so everybody we've talked to has been like, okay, yeah, well, that sounds like a good idea. Okay, not a problem. And the local authorities just want a phone call before we go traipsing around in any cemeteries.
Right.
And that's all they need.
What about haunted? What about locations? Like here, of course, in Utah, we've got a couple of buildings. We've got up in Ogden, Utah, the Ogden train station. Different places here in town, and of course, a lot of them are very open to that because they're collecting a little bit of money on top of it. But same with maybe historical places or old mansions. Have you found the people to be willing to work with you? Maybe if you don't go in the location, but actually to be near it or see it from the outside.
Sometimes they work with you, sometimes they don't. Connecticut's a weird place. I get more of a we'll come on in, we'll help you out from Massachusetts and New York than I do from Connecticut. Connecticut is there's a home that's the worst poltergeist case in the nation, the most haunted house in the country, which would happen to be in Bridgeport, Connecticut. Bill, I think you got a book on that, by the way. And they were very open until somebody broke in, and that's the sad part of this whole thing, There's a lot of home invasions here in Connecticut, and some of them were haunted houses. And then the people said, you know what, we don't really need this. We're not going to advertise, and we're not going to publicize our address. We're going to change the actual number of the house. We can actually paint the house a different color, remodel the house. They've gone that far into it just to get people away. So.
Okay, so these were essentially places that that groups found, and then when it went public, people weren't going there with groups. People were just venturing on their own and causing issues.
Exactly.
Yeah, not good.
No, definitely not. We have a confidentiality clause in our school and our group that essentially says nothing's made public without my acknowledgement.
Gotcha. Is that whole true for homes, guys? I mean, as far as do you kind of follow the same thing? If you get a call from somebody who claims they have something going on in their house, and you want to go in, you go in there and you do some investigating. Do you do the same thing with them? Do you have them sign the legal forms too?
Oh yeah,
absolutely. We have different levels of, I'll say, release. On our forms, we allow the homeowner to choose how much of their information we can put on our website or advertise, things like that. If they don't want anybody to know, then it is mum's the word.
Gotcha.
We are bound by that contract to not say anything.
Interesting. Very interesting. You guys want to take a quick phone call?
Yeah, sure.
All right. Caller, good evening. Welcome to Fringe Radio. You're on with Scott and Bill.
Hey, Pat. It's Bill in New York.
Hey, Bill. How are you?
Good.
Hey, Bill.
I just have a quick question for Scott and Bill. During your recreation of a crime scene, do you have any forensic information that is provided by the local authorities? And have you ever turned over evidence you discovered which resulted in the closure of a cold case?
Scott, that's all you, buddy.
Oh, okay. I have worked with a bunch of different law enforcements, and what happens when I do the recreation, paranormal recreation, I only get part of the police report. I don't get the whole thing. I want them to leave out. Don't hand me the witness forms or anything like that. Just give me the overview of the case. I then go into where they were last, where they were murdered. I go in there, and then we actually try and get something, a name or a voice or something on video or on EVP, and hopefully that voice or that name is somebody they had let go as a witness and could be detrimental. And I have worked with a bunch of people. We did a case in Branford, Connecticut, where we're ready to hit the case. I had the case in front of me, and the FBI came in and says, you know what? We're closing this case. The case is already closed, solved. So they actually made the arrest. So,
wow.
Yeah. So.
And a little follow-up on that. Do you think that individuals who suffer a tragic demise, they remain trapped in our reality and are waiting for someone like yourself to help the system get to the other side?
That's a real good question. Bill, you got an answer for that one?
I'd say absolutely they're waiting for a little bit of resolve. A lot of times they won't cross over until they have their issues resolved. And yes, so I'll say yes to that.
And when you're dealing with do you deal with the relatives and families when you are particularly picking a specific case?
When we first started the cold case division of our, if you want to call it that, we started the cold case. We actually spoke at a survivors of homicide victims and their families, and we actually had a good response. We told them what we were doing, and we had like 4 or 5 different cases. Out of those 4 or 5 different cases, 2 of those cases gave us all the witnesses and everything. So we really couldn't use those cases, so we had to use the other 2 cases.
Interesting.
Wow.
Yes, extremely interesting.
Well, thank you, guys. It's a pleasure to speak with you, and good luck with all the work that you do. And
how's that weather looking up there, Bill?
Well, I just had an incident. I called earlier. I had an incident. I had a log in my fireplace roll out. I had smoke fill the house. It was in the other room, so thank God I resolved them. There was mesh in the fireplace and prevented the log from getting on the floor, which that causes a lot of fires.
Oh, yeah,
so
yeah.
Thankfully, I had my mesh. So thanks again to your guests. And, Pat, you have a great night.
You too, my friend. Take care.
Bye.
Good night.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Bill. One of our good listeners just north of New York City calls in a lot and listens to us all the time. It's a great guy. The question for you both, that's something I had on my little notebook here. Why do you guys think if it's a haunted location, let's say a building or a home, especially like out here in Utah, we've got an old hospital in Tooele, Utah, in the next county over, the next valley over actually to the west of us. There's an old hospital there, and it is a place for paranormal researchers. They do tours and stuff like that, and they have the same characters, if you want to call them that. The same people have been there, the people that have passed, I'm talking about, for many, many years. They don't want to leave. Why do you think that is, Scott and Bill? Do you think some of them like hanging around these places? Or, you always hear I don't want to say, and I don't say this in a joking way, but, well, they haven't found the light. They haven't gone to the light. Well, some of these people have been there for years and they don't seem to want to go to the light. What's your thoughts on that when they continue to stay in one place and don't want to leave?
I personally think it's unfinished business. So, let's say, for instance, they're trying to locate a lost loved one that they need to bring across, and that person's already went across, and they didn't know that.
Okay,
that's my take on it. I don't know what Bill feels.
Well, okay, sometimes, depending on where the location is, like you hear stories about around, in our area anyway, the old homes, and people build their homes and they put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into their homes way back when, and they die in those homes, and they don't want to leave those homes. They feel good there, and it's their house and their mind, and that's just where they want to be. It's a good place for them. That's where they want to be. Sometimes they don't know they're dead, quite honestly, and they just stay where they are.
They feel comfortable in.
They feel very comfortable there, and I know, and I also agree with Scott that it does unfinished business. They stick around for a little while. They have some things they feel they need to straighten up. And actually, my father passed in '92, and he hung around for about 10 years.
Really?
And he just let me know he was there, and my sisters. And then one day, I think he just figured out that all three of us were okay. And I can say it, and people will think I'm nuts, but I haven't heard from him since, I'd say probably 2001, 2002.
That's and a question for you both. I don't know if you've heard this, but a couple of guests in passing have said that in some cases, when a loved one dies, they tend to give a lot of signs and maybe leave little things, or maybe just let you know they're there. And in some cases, people have reported seeing like a full apparition of the person, maybe even somewhat communicate with it. But after the person that has passed on returns in that apparition, if you will, or manifests, that's it. They're gone. It ends. It comes to an abrupt stop, and that's what it seems like, is that they're just wanting to make sure everybody's okay, and it's something you may never deal with or you'll never forget, but you're okay with it. You've accepted it.
Yep.
Absolutely. I had a case here in Ansonia where it was a two-family home, and the daughter lived downstairs, the mother lived upstairs, and the mother kept asking me for about 6 months, put a camera upstairs. My husband's trying to communicate, and her husband had passed, trying to communicate with me through this picture of his. I said, so I kind of blew it off a couple times because she was elderly. I thought she was losing her mind.
Mm-hmm.
So after about 20 times of her asking us, they're doing an investigation, and my wife puts the camera on it, and I almost shit my pants because her lips started moving.
Go ahead.
Yes, video.
Yeah. It was actually pretty cool. And then she passed about 6 months later, and the husband and her went off. The husband was with her the whole time. So there are those instances where the spouse, is waiting for the wife or the husband to pass too.
And also, if I can chime in here, they want to sometimes let us know that they're okay where they are.
Yep.
So they will stick around, as it were, to let everybody know in their lives, like their family, their friends, whatever, if someone has a real problem with it, they're like, oh, and they're, really, really distraught over the death of this person, that person can go back and just let them know that it's okay. I'm in a good now. I'm okay. I'm fine. Everybody's okay. It's great. And they just want to make sure that they let their people know that they're okay, if that makes sense.
Yes, yes.
And then they cross over. And not to say they can't necessarily come back after they cross over, but most of the times I believe that they don't. Once they're done, and they go on to wherever they go after that's beyond me. But
they do their thing.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, they do. They once they know that people have accepted it or at least dealt with it in some way, shape, or form, and validate that and move on.
Well, yes, when people come to terms with it, they feel more at ease and they're able to cross over.
What about? Let me ask you guys, and with all your investigation experience, what do you suggest? What do you tell people when they feel they've got something? I know demonic's kind of a bad word, but something evil in there, maybe something demonic. Have you guys ever encountered something that's maybe a little over your heads or a little over everybody's heads, or there's in your class, or there are things you tell people, look, don't don't play games with certain types of things.
Hey, Scott.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I know where you're going to go with this, Scott. That's too funny. I've never come across anything demonic. Okay. I've had mischievous. I've had high-spirited, quote unquote, pardon the pun. I've been pushed, shoved. I've been swung at. I've been hit. I've had my name. I've heard "fuck you, Bill" on EVP, but I've never had anything actually demonic. And I know, Scott, I believe you have a time or two, haven't you?
Yes, I have a couple of them.
Yeah.
Things we tell that the students to stay away from are like Ouija boards.
Yes, I was going to tell you to stay away from the Ouija board, Scott.
Yeah.
I knew that's where you were with this.
Yeah, I was going to go there. A lot of groups don't know how to get rid of the Ouija board. There's a way to get rid of it so that it doesn't come back.
People don't know how to use a Ouija board.
Yep, that too.
That's so important.
I had a case with a Ouija board, and I refer to this case every time I have the Ouija board case. A class. I said, a minister that was my best friend's father had just passed, but he's the one who always called me when he had a Ouija board. He got a call one night and says, look, I got this thing, and it's in my house. Can you guys come? So he calls me. I trace down there, and he had a Ouija board he tried to burn. He says, and I'm paraphrasing it because it's too long of a story, but he had burned it, and then he buried it in the backyard, and he comes home from work the next day and is sitting on his front porch.
Intact.
So I said to him, intact, with the burn marks. I said, how do you know it's yours? He says, look at that name that's inscribed in it. And it was his name.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you have to understand that maybe 3 or 4 out of 1,000 cases is demonic. They're very rare. Very, very rare.
Yep.
You see it on TV a lot, but at risk of being attacked by everybody that watches television, a lot of that is Hollywooded up.
Sure.
Know what I mean?
Yep.
And
that it is.
I just know that every place is haunted, and not every haunting is evil.
Yep.
And again, it's very rare that it's evil. You'll have the fun ones, I call them the fun ones, the mischievous ones that will lose your car keys or misplace your car keys, or, you know, they slam doors, you hear them walking up and down the stairs. Those are the ones that just want you to know that they're there.
Yep.
What's out east? Well, in your area, Bill, in Pennsylvania, and for you, Scott, what's your favorite? What's your favorite hot spots, or your ones that your go-to ones?
That's a good question. That's a real good question. There's so many of them. I have one in Pennsylvania that we're trying to get into, but we know we can't. And it's supposed to be the worst house in the country, but I think it's only the worst in Pennsylvania.
They claim it to be Pennsylvania's answer to Amityville.
Oh, okay.
And it's a pretty unique house. There was a lot of death and a lot of just bad stuff happening in that home over the years. And if we could get into that house for a night, I can almost retire. That's like the epitome of what I would like to do.
Right.
But there, I don't want him to do that. If he takes a board in there, I'm sitting in the truck.
Taking the board in there.
Well, then I'm sitting in the truck.
Bill doesn't like Ouija boards.
It sounds like it.
Yeah.
What about public places, guys? Have you done some investigation in public places? I know Valley Forge. I mean, there's you got all this big the war sites out there. I mean, do you do that, or are you more more individuals' homes and stuff?
We've gone to Gettysburg a time or two. Well, actually, we go to Gettysburg every year. We've only done one investigation down there, and it was how do I put this? It was an organized investigation. We had guides with us. They kind of left my fiance Lisa and I alone because we brought our own equipment, and they just said, "Oh, well, you guys know what you're doing. Go ahead and go." And it was really fun, but again, it was I don't know. It was fun, but it's just not our cup of tea, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And our group is more focused on, you touched on it earlier, helping the people, the residents, the businesses, the very local people that have issues, and we like to go in and do the regular homes and the small businesses and things like that. Our town is, like Scott's, it's pretty old, our town, and there's a lot of history here, and there are a lot of things that have happened, and I guess to answer your question, we're more into the private homes and helping
people out.
Yeah, exactly.
With your school, have you guys ever thought about taking it to like a webinar type thing where people that aren't, because it sounds like you need to be somewhat local in your area. Have you ever thought about considered making a webinar type thing so people all over the world can use it as a training guide?
Well, can I take that one, Scott?
Good.
See, we kind of want to keep it local, as in hands-on, as in personal.
Okay.
Now, our goal is to have a school in at least one school in every state. But I like the idea because there are things on the web you can do, and you can go to seminars and things like that. But here in our schools, you actually get to touch the equipment. On a webinar, they just tell you what to do, and you have to go do it yourself.
Right.
Here, we hand you the equipment and say, here, this is how you turn this on. This is what you do. This is what you don't want to do. And we walk with them. We take them through an investigation or two, and we say, this is how you do this. Between his experience and our experience, we've got almost 40 years doing this, so we kind of know what we're doing. I'm sure there's things out there that we can learn. Obviously, nobody knows everything. But I like the idea of the smaller 10, 15 people in the classroom. You can manage it better, and you can actually answer questions as they're being asked. The webinar, I can understand. I see where you're going with that, but for me, it's more of a personal thing. It's okay. You guys want to be a group. You want to know what to do. Here's how you do that. And we absolutely, our last class, our first class actually, was just unbelievable. And they learned and they listened and you can't get that in a webinar.
Right, right.
It was more personal for us, and we were able to hand them the EMF detector and say, okay, now here, turn this on, and this is what it does. And the digital voice recorder, Scott, I know you don't like to call them DVRs.
All right, hold on. What's the difference? I'm asking Pat this. What is a DVR?
Well, I think a TiVo.
Digital video recorder, right?
Right.
Thank you.
Well,
Okay,
I think we call them digital voice recorders, DVRs. Anyway, that's a battle Scott and I've had since the day I met him. But, yeah, I understand, and it would be great to be worldwide. And maybe someday we'll get there. But for right now, we have this school, he's got his. We're working on getting more schools open, but we want to do it live, in person. We want to make we want to have the people that are teaching the classes on the same page that we are.
Right.
Then we can, quote unquote, to not sound, what's the word am I looking for, Scott? We want to be able to supervise and help the teachers teach the students.
Exactly. And with us being in Connecticut and Pennsylvania, it's kind of hard if we open a school in California to be out there every 6 months. Although I wouldn't mind.
I wouldn't mind at all either.
So how long does your school go for? How long are the classes? How long does it take?
It's 1 day a week, either Tuesdays. Last semester we were running Tuesdays and Thursdays for 2 hours a night, 7 to 9. Tuesday and Thursdays were the same class for 5 weeks. So, because we had
ours was a 10-week course, 2 hours a night.
So people are going to get hands-on experience, and they're going to know what to do with the equipment and how to handle things. I mean, and that's the first I really heard from. I mean, I've had the honor to interview a lot of paranormal investigators, but nobody really talks about the legalities of things, and I think that's an important piece that everybody seems to miss on.
Recently we've had, I'll call it a filming, and this fellow came in from California, and he came to Pennsylvania. Scott was gracious enough to come down to Pennsylvania and spend the weekend with us. He filmed our class. He did I'll call it a documentary for us, and him and his wife had talked about it, and they did research and on the internet, and they asked questions before they decided to come to Pennsylvania. And he said there's nothing else out there like it in the country. The school, the hands-on training that we give, there's nothing else out there. And to me, that's very, very important.
Yeah.
So, and then to add to that, Scott.
Yeah. I mean, that's the key to the whole thing. Legally, in order to be a success for the school, it would take away a lot from the people if it's not hands-on. That's the whole thing. Right. And I got people calling me up through Facebook saying, look, I'm in Australia. Can you do the school? I said, well, if you want to Skype, that's fine. But you wouldn't have the hands-on training. Okay. That's another option we have, is to get a group where, like I did with Pennsylvania, to actually do the school there, and to be in contact with either me or Bill the whole time.
Gotcha. What type of, what do you guys, for someone who has interest in this and wants to, and I'll use that word respectfully, go to a cemetery during the day or daylight, when they're open, or if they want to go at night, they obtain the permission, whatever that is. What do you guys recommend as a good piece of research equipment to buy? What's the best thing that someone can buy that if they have a little bit of interest in this subject or science, what's a good first piece of equipment to pick up?
Probably a voice recorder. That would probably be your cheapest, and then the next thing they can pick up is like a digital camera. That would be the two main things.
And a really good flashlight.
Yeah.
What do you? What, and as far as location, cemeteries, I mean, do you? I'm from, of course, I live here in Utah, but I'm from Chicago, and my first delve or realm in the paranormal world was Bachelor's Grove Cemetery on the south side of Chicago, where I picked up my first two EVPs. Talk about a creepy place, without a doubt.
Really?
Cemeteries probably the best place to start, guys. Is that probably the best place to go?
Yeah, because you want to stay off abandoned buildings because they're not safe.
Yeah.
Cemeteries are a really good spot to start, don't you think, Scott?
Well, I don't like cemeteries because there's a lot of outside interference with noises with traffic and stuff.
Depending on what cemetery is, yes.
Yeah. But I like old, creepy buildings, tunnels underneath the city, and stuff like that. If you're going to get permission, that's what I would do. Old mental hospitals. And Connecticut has this show of mental hospitals, one on every corner, and they're all boarded up. You've seen an episode with TAP.
On Elm Street in Ansonia, I do believe,
Yeah.
isn't there?
Oh, yeah. I tell everyone this, right? I live on Elm Street. I live in across the street from a cemetery, and Bill can attest to this, and I lived in the house number that Freddy Krueger lived in.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Was that by choice, Scott? Or
No, it wasn't by choice. It was not by choice at all.
Wow.
It's definitely a cool story. Put the spin on everything.
Yeah.
We live about, what, Scott, 50 yards from a really huge cemetery?
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Yeah. All the founding fathers of our town are buried right up over the hill from us. It's a really cool thing.
Do you ever go out there, Bill, and try to pick things up?
It's too cold.
Well, I mean in the summer months.
Yes, absolutely. But we walked through there a time or two. We haven't done a real serious hunt there, and people sometimes, I feel, people get a misconception about cemeteries. They are a good place to start, but people also need to realize that 90% of the time, and my belief is that the cemeteries aren't haunted by those that are buried there, which goes back to what you were saying. Why do people hang after they're passed?
Mm-hmm.
I don't believe that the cemeteries, and I'm sure there are some that are there, but 90% of anything you catch at the cemetery isn't from anybody that's buried there.
Really?
Yep.
Yeah. Case in point, several, I'll say about, I'm going to say probably 6 or 7 years ago, I was in a cemetery with another group, and we asked the spirit. We had a medium, and we had two mediums in our group. It was very cool. And this one spirit just kept bombarding our one medium, and she said, if you do this, you could at least tell me your name. And in her, she heard the name Raymond. And it just came, and it was weird because we caught it on an EVP too. We had a DVR, digital voice recorder, Scott, sorry. And it said, she said, you can at least tell me your name. And on the EVP, you heard Raymond. Well, the next day, we went up, and there wasn't a single Raymond in that cemetery. It took 6 of us to walk that cemetery, and not one Raymond was on any stone anywhere in that cemetery. So it was pretty impressive, actually. And the cemetery up on our hill here is huge. It's old. And this summer we plan on hitting it very, very hard.
Interesting. Guys, we got to wrap up. The hour went way too quick. Why don't you throw out your websites or your information so if our listeners want to go check it out, they can.
Okay. Family Haunts on Facebook.
Okay.
And on Twitter. Family Haunts 1 on Twitter. And then Facebook. If you want to reach us by email, it's familyhaunts1@yahoo.com.
Sounds good. How about you, Bill?
Got Spring Hill PI on Facebook, and our website is www.springhill.com, and we have a Twitter account. I think it's PI Spring Hill, and our email is at Hotmail, Springhill PI at Hotmail.
Sounds very good. Well, guys, I want to thank you both for taking the time tonight. I know it's late out your way, but I appreciate you sharing some time with us and educating us, and it was an honor to have you here.
It was an honor to be here. Thank you very much.
Okay, Bill, Scott, have a great weekend. Take care, and we'll keep in touch.
All right, thank you.
Okay, guys, take care. Good night. Bye-bye.
Okay, you too. Bye.
All right, Scott Hamilton and his friend Bill